we passed around the description on the Cameo, and
Yes.
Peggy wanted me to tell the story for posterity. In 1943, my dad was in combat in Italy, and he got a short pass to go back to Naples for a few days. And he went to a market there, and there was a place there that sold cameos, and he bought 7 cameos for my mother, which some years later they had made into a necklace, which I'm sure all of y'all have seen at one point or another. It's a beautiful necklace with the 7 cameos. And he had said many times and written that he wished that he could have had a cameo made of my mother. But he only had one picture of her, which actually we passed around tonight.
It's the heavy glass.
But we had the actual picture in a frame here. That's the piece of paper that my dad carried around Sicily and Italy with him 63 years ago. Plastic. That's right, I keep forgetting that. Well, he didn't know if or when he would ever be able to come back, and he didn't want to leave the picture, so he didn't have that done. Well, it turned out that I had a business trip to Italy in December. Peggy went with me, and after the business trip, we took a couple of weeks off, and we traced the route of the 2nd Chemical Battalion from Sicily up to Rome. And at some point it dawned on me that we would be going to Naples. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool if we could get a cameo made from that picture that actually came from Naples? And so I checked.
Napoli.
Napoli. Yes, Napoli.
Thank you.
Just south of Roma.
Yes.
So I checked with one of my contacts over there and didn't hear back for a couple of weeks, which surprised me because Angela's usually pretty responsive. And it turned out that this was a much bigger deal than I realized because nobody makes cameos by hand anymore. They're all made by machine. My contact finally found a district manager who knew a couple who ran a jewelry store, who found an old guy who does cameos by hand and had retired, but he liked the story so much that he agreed to make it. And we found out that this story really struck a chord in the Italian soul. I mean, everybody who heard the story just thought it was the most wonderful thing in the world.
I don't think that's unique to Italians.
Oh, well, maybe we all have some Italian soul in us.
Maybe so.
Anyway, the other part of the story is that we actually were walking around one night and went into this market, and I looked up, and here was this roof, which was unmistakably the roof that my father had photographed in 1943, and it turned out that was the Galleria Umberto. And as he pointed out, in 1943 there was almost no glass in the wrought iron. It had all been bombed out. But it was all there when we visited, but it was clearly the same place. And Peggy found this curio shop and starts talking to the owner. And it turns out that this shop has been here since 1922 as a cameo dealer. And this guy has a picture of his father up on the wall, and in the discussion we concluded it was almost certainly his father who sold my father the 7 cameos on my mother's necklace. And of course, by this time now, I'm just desperately hoping that Peggy's going to find some piece of jewelry in this shop that she falls in love with. I mean, right?
Not a problem.
This would not really be poetically complete if we just walked out without buying anything. And so Peggy spotted this antique ring and fell in love with it. And I had been in the background. I know that's surprising, but sometimes I am. And when I had spoken, it had been in English. So this guy had no idea that I had picked up some smidgen of Italian. So he didn't know that I knew what he asked when he turned around and asked his son, how cheap can I sell this lady this ring? Because he also tuned into the whole story, the cameos and the 2 fathers, and he really wanted us to buy something to take away from his story. So to make a long story short, they did have the guy make the cameo, and I was was wearing it tonight. It's clearly from that picture. You can even see the little particular fastenings on the dress and the crossed retorts of the Chemical Warfare Service. And so as we told her at Christmas, we'd like to think of it as a present from my dad, 62 years delayed.
That's a good story.
Isn't it?
That's better than good.